Hi, everyone. I'm back for another episode of Let's Talk About It with Eddie Taylor, the Director of NIL and Innovation at the University of Cincinnati. Eddie, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Of course, happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk to you. Today, we are finishing our series with Root Note on data drives value. Specifically, today, we're going to be talking about your role at University of Cincinnati and your insights for student athletes who are thinking about how they apply all of their NIL opportunities and success to life post grad. So, Eddie, can we just start off talking a little bit more about your role at University of Cincinnati?
Yeah, so I'm the director of NIL at Cincinnati. I oversee all of our organic NIL operations. So commercials, cars, social media posts, captions, um, helping you get connected with resources both here and then also externally, and everything and anything that has to do with you and your personal brand.
Wow, that's awesome. I feel like that's a position that ranges a lot amongst schools. Like, we did not have a person specifically at Cornell, and I don't think we had a full-time person at Syracuse either, although we definitely had lots of people from the sports business school college coming in and helping us and lots of different workshops. How many student athletes do you feel like at Cincinnati are actively coming to you and that you're talking with on, let's say, like a weekly basis?
Uh, I want to say last year we did 400 individual meetings, so
Wow.
all of them.
I've heard a lot recently that although NIL is very popular, that there are still a lot of athletes who don't want to be part of NIL or don't really know what it is. Have you seen that in your position?
Yeah, I think not wanting to do NIL is just a lack of information. NIL is a lot more than just posting on social media. That's my favorite part, but it it ranges. Like we've placed athletes in jobs from NIL. We've got athletes to go on brand trips to NIL and see places they've never gotten to go before. We've gotten athletes that have met like these company CFOs, CEOs, CMOs. I think once you present it to them in a way that makes sense to them, then they want to do it.
That's really cool. So I definitely have seen that. I felt like the big hesitation for a lot of athletes, and I'll say more like people maybe my year and above. So many of us have graduated now, but we could have participated in NIL when we were student athletes. It's just like it has nothing to do with what I want to do after college. I don't want to be an influencer. It's too much work. You said that before that you've had some athletes get placed into roles because of their NIL experience. What does that look like?
Well, we do a pretty comprehensive data sweep at the beginning of the year with all of our athletes, and I want to know what you want to do post grad. I want to know like what your dream job is, and then I help. I'm like, okay, you didn't list medical sales and your NIL activations that you said you wanted to do, but your dream job is medical sales. Like, how do we bridge that gap? I'm saying that because we have two athletes that now work at a medical company doing like pharmaceutical testing and stuff like that, but they were always like, oh, I can't do that. That's not a normal thing. Like I can, NIL is just food deals and shoes and clothes, and I'm like, why not? Be whatever you want. I'll do whatever you want to do. Like tell me, I work for you.
Yeah.
But I think that's the misconception. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that as far as the whole the influencer marketing sector is worth a couple $1 billion. Don't leave that money on the table either. But if you simply just want to use NIL as a way to bolster yourself professionally, there is a way that you can do that through content and through networking and through like strategic engagement to get you where you want to go.
Let's say I'm someone who wants to work in finance, right? That was like something that happened that was really common at Cornell. People wanted to work in finance, they wanted to work in private equity, or maybe they wanted to work in consulting. How does being involved in NIL, how could that eventually relate to banking or private equity or whatever?
Yeah, so I think half of the point of NIL is just for you to meet the people that make the decisions on if you get there. And the other half is just showing that you're smart enough to do the job. Now, I there is no way through NIL are you ever going to learn how to like manage private equity or do any of that or like, do anything that has to do with banking. However, we our arena is sponsored by Fifth Third Bank. So, for example, if I had a kid that was like, "Hey, I want to, go into banking," and I would say, "Okay, like, let me go." We should probably ask them, and then whether that's a job shadow, whether that's an NIL deal, which would be cool, or both. We've had NIL deals where they go in, shadow, make content for the brand, like while they're doing it, and then they have evergreen content. Like the money you get from that is cool, but the networking you get from that is what'll, place you in a job. And so I look at it, it's like, yeah, like you might not want to be an influencer, but this is the quickest way to get you in the door with where you want to go.
Yeah, I feel like the content piece definitely like scares a lot of people and intimidates them. Are there other deals beyond just like the content piece that you've seen your athletes do at Cincinnati?
Yeah, I've seen camps and clinics, autographs, like, use of marks, like all the different ones. I tell them like, hey, it's like if you're gonna play football, you're gonna have to get around contact. Like you're gonna get hit. It's gonna happen. So
Hmm.
just get used to getting hit. And so I tell them like, hey, I don't need you to become Mr. Beast, but I do need you to get used to being able to get on edits or CapCut and edit a video and be able to fulfill your deliverables just as a way to get in the door.
Yeah, I love that. Like this whole series, we've been talking about, hey, there are some things that are just inevitable in the process of sports and life. Honestly, is something that comes up a lot in the show as well. And that content piece is that marketing piece. It's that visibility and that advertising piece. So I definitely feel you there, right? Like even if I decide to do a camp or I decide to do an appearance, there's going to be some kind of posting about that. And so unless that company that I'm working with has a huge media team, it might be up to you to be doing some of that. Unless you're hiring a full service team to do your flyers and do everything, you might have to jump on Canva. For years I've been making TikTok videos. I have a podcast and I'll have all of that. Now I got to graduation and I'm like, okay, how do I actually explain this and market myself with this? Do you have any tips on how you turn those NIL opportunities, experiences into business language and getting an opportunity for yourself?
When they go to make a resume, they go to apply for an internship. I say, okay, here are the deals you've done. We're gonna go apply for an internship at a finance place. You've done an NIL deal with a bank, so you have experience marketing, finance, and financial services. And whether you're going in for a marketing job or just an actual finance internship, that sets you apart from someone else. And that's what I'm trying to get them to understand is that, I think at this point it's all just AI reviewing the resumes anyway. They're looking for these keywords, and if you can say you did that, and then also when you get to the in-person interview, be like, yeah, I worked with X Bank and I had a great time. I learned about how their, interest rates or whatever. Those other kids, like non-athletes, no offense, are not gonna get the rarely gonna get the chance to go in and shadow and talk to these high level people. People love athletes. The president's gonna come down and talk to you probably, and like talk to you and really like pour into you in a way. You're just gonna have a way like that. That's your leg up. Like sports is not your platform. Sports is just like your door. Your platform is what you do with everything that sports gives you.
As we talk about using your social media to leverage opportunities, to meet brands, to get into, content specific NIL deals, I can't help but think about like your online presence, right? Like digital footprint. As athletes are creating content, but also thinking about working out in the future in something other than the influencer marketing industry, do you have any tips for them on their digital footprint or what they should be putting out there?
Two things. One, don't do anything stupid. But two, and stupid is anything you have to think twice about. Like that's the way I put it. If you have to think twice about it, just don't do it. Uh, and two, I always say put the ball in your court, and what I mean by that is do not try to rebound if you are 5'3". Like let the tall people get it. If you aren't well spoken in front of a camera, and going live would make you shake in your boots, you don't have to be like, hey, I'm vlogging my. You can do a voiceover, and you can do it 90 times, and no one will know. Figuring out what you do best at and what you like the most, even if you don't like content, figuring out what type of content you like making the most. It could be written content. You could start a Substack. Don't get me started on how athletes should own their own channels and not use regular social media. Anyway, whole different stuff. If you do really good talking head green screen videos, you can apply that to anything. You can apply that to finance. You can apply that to beauty, marketing, whatever. And then brands will see that, and brands are going to want to partner with you. If you do really bad ones though, and you see everyone else is doing it and they do really well, yours are going to flop. One, because you don't like it, and two, you're not good at it. So if you're an offensive tackle, don't try to run routes. That's the best way I can put it. Put your hand in the dirt and make cut block.
Yeah, what you're saying about the green screen videos, I know it's a little bit off, makes me think of just like the skills that go into those videos as well. Like if you're like I am not a green screen creator. I guess maybe I could do it eventually. I'm using a green screen right now, but like the people who like have a photo and they tell a whole story and they have all these facts and different things, like that's extremely valuable. And at the end of the day, like what you're doing is like organizing information, data, communication. Like those are all the kinds of things that you put in on your LinkedIn skills section or your resume section or things that you can talk about in interviews. How do you help student athletes navigate like their elevator pitch? You've been talking a ton about networking and getting to know different people. I've always felt a little bit insecure in the beginning when I first started the podcast and I meet people being like, oh yeah, like I do NIL deals, I have social media, and I have a podcast. It doesn't always sound like a super cohesive thing, and I bet a lot of athletes struggle with that. How do you recommend student athletes talk about this in their day to day when they're networking with different people?
When it comes to networking, I always say networking is just simply saying, "Hi, I'm Eddie. This is what I do. This is what I'm interested in," and you don't have to do anything else. Like I told you, "Hey, Sydney, I think your podcast is cool. Let me know if you need a guest." That's it. That was networking. That's it. That's it. I'm Eddie. I think your podcast is cool. That's it. You know I exist now. That's really it. That's networking is just marketing. Just being having top of mind awareness and being the first person they think of when it's like, oh, I remember I met that UC player, and she's interested in finance. We have a finance internship open. Let me call her. That's all you're doing. You're marketing. So that's what I tell my athletes. Like you really can't mess up networking as long as you don't say anything like monumentally stupid. Like you're good. However, I think athletes confuse, and a lot of people confuse networking with selling. That's when you're saying, "Hey, I'm Eddie. I really like Legos. Here's everything I've done Lego. Do you want to work together? Here's the KPIs and the OKRs, and here's everything we could do. And like, this is why you should work with me. Pick your legal team and marketing team." That's a whole different. I think that's what student athletes are. They're trying to sell themselves. They're trying to prove they belong, and I understand why they think like that because they're fighting for roster spots. They're fighting to go pro. They're fighting for all these things. Um, and they're not just thinking like they're like, oh, I have to prove to these people that I'm good enough. When in all reality, all you're doing is saying, hey, I really like accounting, and I would like to be an accountant. If you know anything about accounting, I would like to talk to you. That's it. That's why I'm so big on LinkedIn. I'm so big on like making content around things you're interested in because all you're doing is marketing yourself.
I had experienced a lot of anxiety going into my senior year about like, hey, how am I going to get a job? What is the timeline? Like, how am I going to handle all of this while being in school, while being in season? What is the Can you just walk me through like the timeline for student athletes and kind of maybe give them some tips and tricks of what they should be doing maybe in that senior year, right when they know they're running out of eligibility to set themselves up for success?
I would say junior year, it's like, okay, this is what I want to do, or this is like the bubble of like the things I'm thinking of. And then my goal is just, okay, how can I get you exposure to all these different places as fast as possible? Because you might not get like 8 job shadow opportunities, you might only get one, but that might be the one where you're like, I love it, or you might, I hate it. That being said, I would start networking as soon as possible. It's almost like investing. Like the earlier you start, the better off you'll be.
Definitely resonate with that. I think getting started early and constantly thinking about things and trying things out is really great. But one thing that I've always had a little bit in the back of my mind is like, at what point is it too much in a way? Like, I think that that's something that happens a lot. There's this culture of this grind and like constantly doing stuff and constantly thinking of what you want to be. And like you said, it likely will change and you don't quite know who you are. What do you have to say about that? I feel like especially with NIL, there's this pressure, like you said, around athletes, like, hey, when you're done, like you lose this brand, you lose this opportunity. But there's also the reality of like that we're kids or we're really young in a way and we need to balance it. Do you have any perspective on all of that?
Yeah, I think at 18, I did my first NIL when I was 16. So I didn't play a NCAA sport. I did powerlifting for Team USA, so I didn't have to deal with all that amateurs and stuff. But at 16, I was locked in. Like I was like, I'm gonna go be a pro, like a pro lifter. I'm gonna do that. Like I was very very adamant, and I did it. And I knew at a very young age that I could only do 3 things. I could go to school, lift, and other with social media. That's what I did. And I always tell my student athletes like you don't have to like balance as an athlete is picking maybe it's even one thing, but 1 to 3 things and doing them really, really well and just moving them in and out. Like there is no way you can be an elite athlete have a crazy social life, and have a 4.0. And that's okay. Like balance, really, like balance for me when I first started my job was just surviving. Like every day I would grovel to work, not because work was bad, but just like I'm like, oh my god, I'm overwhelmed. I have to deal with all this stuff. And like, my first recruit was like the number 7 recruit in the country, and I was like, oh my god. But balance for me was just I was working until 10 o'clock at night, and that was balance, and that was okay because it wasn't like that forever. Balance for you, like if you're like, oh my god, I'm a senior, I need to figure out what I'm doing in my life. Balance for you might just be like playing and figuring that out, and that's okay. Like NIL can take a back burner. NIL should be a tool you use to get that. But I tell my athletes like we got to figure out what we're gonna focus on. We're gonna focus on revenue. We're gonna focus on networking, and like even inside of NIL, like do you want to be an influencer? Like post grad, do you still want to do this? Because we need to think about that differently too. So I would just say like there actually is no pressure. Like I like you're born and then you die. Like that's it. Those are the only two things that happen. Death and taxes. So all pressure is external and it's not real. Why did that person get that deal? Me, my athlete reached out for that deal. It's like really tough, but I always say the right deal will find you as long as you're looking for it and you're open for it. And as long as you're being yourself, being authentic and showing up every day. I've done a lot of NIL deals, but I have never seen someone that actually showed up and was themselves not be successful. Success was them getting a job posting, or success was them getting that dream internship, or success was them making like $15,000, something like that. It's just we have this measure of success as an industry that it's just revenue, and we're in a revenue, and the cap keeps going up, and all these different things. But when it comes to me and my NIL bubble that I try to run, it's like success is you saying like I was scared to talk in front of the camera, and now you're confident enough to go speak in front of your club team. Like that's a win. We won. We NIL worked to our advantage. I went on a tangent there. Sorry, I forgot what we were talking about.
No, I loved that. That was fantastic. I was just and I'm thinking too, like what you're saying about the success is honestly what I mean is people saying like the fact of hey when you're not an athlete you don't have this logo on your chest anymore there's going to be a decrease of people who are interested in you at the core of oh because you're an athlete like is 100% true and so I feel like you have to keep that in mind when you get the Instagram reel or you go to the panel conversation or the workshop for your school that's saying you need to do this and everyone should be doing this and all of that you have to take that part in mind that part of like because oh like if you want to be an influencer later that it'll be more difficult that part isn't always said in the big Instagram reel intro or different things like that. And it causes a lot of anxiety or causes a lot of comparison. But the reason why people say it like that is one, because it's people like you who care and who have seen it and are like, hey, we want to make sure that you know of all of the opportunities available to you because in the past people didn't. Or it's two, it's people that are marketing something, right? Like who are the people for the most part that are really putting out like, hey, you have to do this and everyone should be doing this, or you're missing out if you're not doing this. It's people who are trying to sell to you in some way. Whether honestly, like, go ahead.
Um, I have two things that I really want to say. One, back on that success thing, something that irks me. If you have 100 followers and you get 1,000 views, that is such a big win. And I know, like
Yeah.
it. Stay with me. If you have 100 followers and 1,000 people show up to watch your video, and then you get 100 likes, you had a 10% conversion rate, which super high actually. That's a win. But because social media is like, oh, I didn't get a million likes, blah blah blah. Like, no, social media is you versus you, just like life is you versus you. That's one thing. That irks me. I see that in everyone, even myself. Like, I look at what other people are doing, and I'm like, oh, I need to do better. But really, it's like they have different athletes, they have different stuff going on. It's like, how good can I make Cincinnati and my athletes and their
And they
training?
have different goals. Like that's the huge thing too, right? Like everyone has a different goal. And so I just think like considering the source and taking a step back at the context when we hear some of these things that make us compare ourselves or make us feel like we need to rush is so important because what's the actual context here? Does it actually apply to me?
The second thing that you made me think about this is the best advice I've ever gotten in my entire one of the best things I've ever heard in my entire life. And I tell it to all my athletes. Like an agent or someone trying to sell you something, or like when people are rushing you, like when there's a sale, like, oh, buy now, it's gonna sell out. Like that's a fear tactic. Like think about how people eat. Like if the agent is telling you need an agent and you need to negotiate up and they need to take all this money from you because they're doing all this stuff from you, and think about, oh, they're gonna get like 10% of that. God, I hope it's not more. I've seen some bad ones. Anyway, or if the NIL platform that needs the athletes on there saying you have to sign up for this. Everyone else is doing it. If you don't do it, you get left behind. How do they eat? They eat by people being on the platform. So just take a step back. Like if the car salesman is telling you that you need to upgrade your car, why is that? I do a really good job of I try to make sure when I tell my athletes, hey, do something, I follow it up with why immediately
Hmm.
because I don't think every single one of my athletes should come to the financial literacy thing we hold about investments and buying a house.
This episode, I really wanted to make it because this series was so heavy on monetization um, and we talked about strategy for the best, how to build your platform and how to get people to care and how to get agents and different things with so much of the series. I wanted to make sure that we had an episode for the people who don't want to be influencers, who aren't necessarily trying to shoot for $1 million or aren't trying to, you know, close huge gaps by social media or with the other NIL stuff. It was really just saying like, hey, this is how you can optimize the opportunities that you get as an athlete, and you're someone who's helping people do it all the time. Uh, so I absolutely love that.
Building off that, don't just not come to my office because you're like, oh, I don't want to do brand deals. I want to like work on cars and like flip cars. Okay, great. Well, let's start making content about cars and let's start getting that going. Like you're gonna need some seed money, right? So let's go talk about loans. Like all that stuff falls under the NIL umbrella, and you can. The limit is only your creativity. I'll say it like that.
Yeah, I love that. It's like don't block your blessings or potential opportunities because of what you think it might be. There isn't anyone in any space doing anything exactly the way like you are or that you will. So just because you only see people doing NIL deals with Brooks Running or whatever it is, and you always see people doing it this way, doesn't mean that's how you have to do it. And so, hey, if you're a student athlete right now and you guys have an NIL director at your school, or you have an opportunity to go to a workshop or to ask questions, like go do it. You never know how it'll turn out. Eddie, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Of course, it was my pleasure.
Hey guys, it's Sid. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Let's Talk About It, brought to you by RootNote, the all-in-one platform creators rely on to track growth, pitch brands, and turn content into revenue. With support for dozens of platforms like TikTok and Instagram to Shopify and Patreon, you can get unified analytics, real-time dashboards, and beautiful drag and drop data spaces. For more information, go to rootnote.co, that is ROOTNOTE.co, and I'll see you guys next week.